Yeah, no, we're definitely trying this today. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And today we are going to be playing with a colorless hard prison deck. For those of you that were old enough to remember Legacy Mud, this is going to be very similar to that. So let's start with that name, Mud. Mud used to refer to colorless decks that really tried to lock down the game and keep your opponent from ever casting any spells. I want you to just think of a random legacy deck. You probably just thought of something with Brainstorm and Ponders, right? Well, when a Sphere of Resistance is put into play, your deck grinds to a halt. And guess what? There's more than just one thing with the Sphere of Resistance effect in Legacy. So we're going to attempt to get some big mana, cast a bunch of spheres and lodestone golems, and ride literally our opponents not being able to cast anything to victory. Phyrexia All Will Be One gave us a really interesting tool to include in these sorts of decks, the Mycosynth Gardens. You've been following this channel for a while, you've probably seen this in some sort of maybe Phyrexian Dreadnought shell, or a shell where you're seeking to copy Lion's Eye diamonds. We are legit just going to copy Spheres of Resistances and Lodestone Golems while playing this deck, and just continue to stack up the stacks effect on our opponent. Stacks on stacks, if you will. And once our opponent is fully locked out of the game, we can win however we want. This deck list is going to opt to use Crystalline Giant, which is a really cool card that is easier to play on Magic Online than on paper, so you don't have to have a giant pile of tokens. This creature scales up very well, and for those of you that hate Urza Saga, you're in the luck because we're not playing with that card today, even though we are playing an artifact deck. Instead of playing Urza Saga that rewards us for playing a bunch of early artifacts, we're going to play Cloudpost, something that lets us ramp up into a very large late game so that we can ignore our own prison pieces, or at least be minimally impacted by them. Let's go ahead and take a look at today's deck list here. This is a great time to mention that today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And if you end up wanting to buy any of the cards in this video, or maybe pre-order some stuff from the Lord of the Rings set, use promo code ThrabenU on Cool Stuff Inc. for 5% off your order to support my content. So Matt gave me a dealer's choice donation deck list, which is allowing me to play this league, and I found this exact 75 on Crucible of Worlds YouTube channel. And I like what's going on here. This is very much full of fill cards, and I've separated the lands out into kind of the utility lands over here and the things that contribute to ramp over here. Although Thespian Stage, which can copy Cloudpost, kind of fits into both categories. We get to play with a bunch of fun goodies today, many of which have kind of been power crept out of Legacy. And we do get to play with some very neat finishers. God-Pharaoh's statue is legit a win condition. If you're coupling it with things like Sphere of Resistance, your opponent legitimately might not be able to cast any spells ever. We have a pretty robust Karn the Great Creator package to round out this deck. And there is one card here that I've never seen before, which is Cityscape Leveler, an 8/8 with Unearth and Trample. When you cast it and when it attacks, you get to destroy up to one target non-land permanent. Its controller gets a tapped Power Stone token. And that seems very slow, but in a deck like this one, where, like, you want to play a game that lasts to turn 12, that might actually be legitimate. I suppose about the only thing that I haven't mentioned now is Grim Monolith, which is going to be our way to accelerate into these early lock pieces. And when the game is bogged down, we absolutely can take a turn off to just tap 4 mana to untap this, so that we can cast something really big and silly. Alright, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the matches here. Do me a favor, if you're not subscribed yet and you find yourself regularly watching, please click that button. I am trying to get over the hump of 20k, as I would very much like to have that number down. Alright, let's battle. Okay, I have a turn 2 Grim Monolith into a turn 3 Lodestone Golem. On the draw, this feels like it is just going to be too slow. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan and see if we can do something better. This is a weird hand. I think I keep it. Just plan on recycling City of Traders via Crucible of Worlds. I think I'll still lead on Glimmer Posts and pass, though. They'll have a pretty good turn, too. Also, apologies in advance if some minor stuff gets cut out from today's video. The pollen count is like super high in my area right now, and I am dying. But the show must go on. I'm going to take a nice, long, hot shower when I am done recording this league. Cartesian the one playing the Divining Witch combo deck from the other day? I think so. I think I'm going to go for some disruption this turn. I'm going to go 4 mana and attempt the Lodestone Golem. Getting a response at the very least. Turn off a cantrip. And it sticks. So I'd kind of like to resolve Crucible of Worlds and then Tangle Wire. Yeah, anything like Baleful Strix is okay with me. I could Tangle Wire now and not make a land drop. I could just like Tangle Wire now and play Cloud Post. Note that this is non-artifact spells that are taxed, which is why my opponent could cast the 2 mana Baleful Strix. Right. Play a Cloud Post, which is immediately the same amount of mana as City of Traders, and no attack. Now my opponent is going to tap all their permanents for me. Very Mastermind, sure. If memory serves, that was a 1-of in their deck. Alright, they do not have further lands. So I would like to remove the fading counter first. Now I tap 3 things. I think I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 and miss out on 5 points of damage to keep playing cards. Do I want to Karn? I think I want to Karn. Yeah. Oh, fuck, I can't. Non-artifact, not non-colorless. I should have played Thespian Stage. I'm going to take 2 more points of damage than I need to here for doing that. Alright, first misplay of the day. We made it 4 turns, though, so that's pretty good. Alright, my opponent has tapped down their creatures and one of their lands to Tangle Wire. Brainstorm is fine at a 2-mana play. No big deal. Now we remove this fading counter, and guess what? I just have artifacts that I can tap at no detriment to myself. I'll play a new Cloud Post here. Crash in for 5 points of damage. Brings my opponent to 13. This will cost me 5 points of mana. This will cost me 5 mana. Words. I am fine with letting my opponent kill Karn. What Cityscape Leveler over God-Pharaoh statue? Just like doesn't have to resolve because this is on cast. Yeah, I'm into that. It will presumably tap Island here. I was indeed correct. You can now kill my Karn. Ponder's totally fine. That is a shuffle. So again, we'll remove a fading counter. Tap an artifact that doesn't mind being tapped. This is quite good. I can now shut off Force of Will. 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. We'll go ahead and do a pre-combat Wasteland. Hit for a ripe 5 points of damage. Dropping my opponent to 8. We'll take 2 to cast this. We will destroy Baleful Strix here. My opponent gets a Power Stone token. Well, now my opponent could like use this for their Tangle Wire, for my Tangle Wire, but otherwise they're probably not getting a lot of worth out of this. They could use it to, say, activate a Fairy Mastermind. A Teferi, absolutely. Sure, that's fine. I will just get to cast that again, and it will be uncounterable. This is not truly a problem. I'm going to play a Wasteland from my graveyard here. Going to Wasteland that Tundra. We will pay the blood price. Get rid of the Fairy Mastermind here. And my opponent is done with me. This deck feels smooth. I imagine that in most matchups, I physically don't sideboard unless I'm expecting something like Meltdown. Like, there's 4 copies of Welding Jar in this sideboard for a reason. Yeah, I'm gonna whack the submit button. This hand does not have enough mana. This hand is perfectly reasonable. As of right now, I'm playing turn 1 Cloud Post, turn 2 Glimmer Post, have 3 mana, probably cast a Tangle Wire, slow down the game. I have nothing to do with Crucible of Worlds right now. I'm going to throw that card back accordingly. Alright, my opponent's starting the game off with a fetch, presumably into like a Ponder. Yep. Throw back Crucible of Worlds, first draw is Wasteland. Never fails. I don't mind though, like Wasteland is a perfectly reasonable card on its own. This doesn't have a sorcery speed restriction, does it? It does not. Okay, so in case you haven't watched the recent video, Divining Witch is used to find a Thassa's Oracle, and then it's activated a second time, naming some card that's not in your deck to empty your library, and then you win with Thassa's Oracle. I believe that I just physically destroy my opponent's black source here, rather than play Tangle Wire. If I just play Tangle Wire here, it doesn't accomplish what I need it to do. Ooh, do you not have the land? Ooh. Very nice. Very nice. So Glimmer Post for 2 life. Thinking about whether or not I want to play a Crystalline Giant this turn. To just clock my opponent. I don't think I do. I think I am just going to slow this game. Ooh. That's pretty strong. My opponent is trying to go aggro on me. And they found mana for Divining Witch. I'm going to be a little behind curve here. Hopefully that ends up being fine. I will play a Thespian Stage and pass the turn. Next turn I get to just start playing bangers, so this is like hopefully fine. The Divining Witch combo can definitely just kill me. Okay, my opponent is not going for it at turbo speed here. They're just going to go for a Divining Witch activation at end of turn. We'll tap down 2 permanents. Crystalline Giants are not at their prime here. Ooh, Force of Will, I believe, means that I am dead. Oh. No Divining Witch activation there. I wonder if that means I'm already dead. Alright, we're seeing movement now. I imagine this is 2 fetches. My opponent plays Thassa's Oracle from hand and then mills their library. It is Thought Lash instead. So I lose to Thassa's Oracle next turn. Tap Tangle Wire to Tangle Wire here. I guess. Show me another basic swamp? Okay. We'll gain some life. Taps for 3. This is another 3. I will Crystalline Giant into his brother. These get to start stacking up with assorted counters. A reach counter is very good here, assuming that I am not just dead. Alright, so my opponent is going to really stop my aggro stuff with Thought Lash. Okay, there's Thassa's Oracle, and my opponent can just activate Thought Lash a billion times. And then I lose when the Thassa's Oracle trigger resolves. So notably here, there's a few copies of Filter Out that I'm going to have to watch out for. And I'll just be resubmitting as is. I think we played a pretty decent game of Magic, but my opponent just wiggled in all the right ways that let them get through. The game went on for longer than I was expecting, though. This is a weird looking hand. I am going to keep this one. If Sphere of Resistance resolves, I will just end up copying it with Mycosynth Gardens afterwards. So I am here for this hand. A Force of Will is absolutely devastating, but cards other than Force of Will I think aren't that scary. Nice. We will go ahead and play there's no sorcery speed restriction on this, right? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and play this, pass the turn. Then we'll go ahead and copy Sphere of Resistance. Now we have 2 of those. Opponent's cantrips currently cost 3 mana. Just kind of fully putting them out of reasonable castability range. Crystalline Giant. I could do that for 5 mana this turn if I'm willing to play Ancient Tomb. That's fine. Let's start putting some counters on some permanents. Oh, I was about to say lifelink would be cool. And have some ground to make up for. Double fetch from my opponent. Into presumably some sort of cantrip or Swords to Plowshares or something. Oh, that's rude. That's frustratingly good against what I've got going on here. I don't think I cast this card. I will do so on some turn where it does not cost me life. Oh man, Aether Vial's so insanely good here. Alright, cool. Let's yield to that. Alright, it's hexproof. It's not going anywhere now. My opponent's at 12. I'm back up to 18. What number is this chalice going on? My opponent's 3 mana spells currently cost 5 mana, so I don't think I need to do it for 3 for filter out. 2 sounds pretty good. So I think I'm going to go ahead and Thespian Stage, target a Cloud Post, paying 2 life. Now I'll Chalice on X is 2. And while this fully doesn't prevent a kill, it does mean that my opponent has to use Aether Vial multiple times. A new Crystalline Giant. We'll go ahead and cast that so that these get their counters. We'll send in with one of these. Opponent goes to 9. Guess I'll keep making land drops. There is a Divining Witch. So this is a problem. I could, in theory, lose the game this turn. Aether Vial just fully danced around my Sphere of Resistances. Oh, they just have the Thassa's Oracle? They just have the Thassa's Oracle, so they name a card that's not in their deck. And I lose the game here. That's rough. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is just the best place to keep your online deck lists. And one of the things that I love about them is that you can use it to keep track of what cards you do and don't have for a deck. So for example, in this deck list, I have all of the cards, so there are nice blue bubbles filled in here, and that's automatically ported over to your collection tab, where you can see exactly what cards you do and don't have. All right, I have a perfectly reasonable Cloud Post ramp hand that can pivot into Crucible of Worlds Wasteland a little bit later on. See what we're facing down. Don't fully know yet. So in a vacuum, I'm just going to play Cloud Post. This only produces 2 mana right now, so I don't have a play for this turn cycle. But I have various disgusting things I can do starting next turn. Alright, that is a non-basic land. I love seeing, given this board. You come into my house and wasteland me. I think I wasteland them immediately. We'll see if that ends up being correct or not. Just in terms of my curve, I am still always going to be able to play this Crucible of Worlds before a Teferi can bounce it or a Prismatic Ending can exile it. What? Are you fucking serious right now? Okay. You've got my attention. Wart. Force of Negation Wasteland. Tundra. In the vacuum of not really knowing what my opponent is doing, I am going to play a Karn and try to force other counter magic onto this. And then my plan for next turn is hopefully play Crystalline Giant while double wastelanding my opponent. A Force of Negation pitching a Brainstorm, sure. My opponent is playing every pitch counter known to mankind. So what's their card advantage engine that makes this a reasonable thing to do? That is my current question. So many Crystalline Giants. I'm going to go ahead and wasteland a Tundra. Seems like my opponent has nothing here. I'm going to wasteland a Tropical Island. And we're going to play my son, Crystalline Giant, who got Vigilance for his birthday. My opponent's in Bant colors. I don't care if you swords this. Ooh, is that new swords art? Cool. Alright, so that's all that my opponent's got. We'll just keep slamming Crystalline Giants until one of them kills my opponent. I would love to get a hexproof counter on Crystalline Giant randomly. Like, that would be cool. I'm going to play another one And then next turn, I'm going to play Tangle Wire. I think I want 2 of these in play so that one Swords to Plowshares or whatever doesn't just drastically impact my ability to end this game. Is it just Uro? Like, is that the thing? Alright, Mycosynth Gardens happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is +1 mana. Let's just Tangle Wire. Get some counters. Send in 7 points of damage. I'll tap down all my opponent's permanents. And then my opponent might die on my turn. They die on my turn if this gets a +1/+1 counter. So fading happens. I'll tap down 1, 2, 3. I guess I am incentivized to play this pre-combat. And a Supreme Verdict or whatever isn't going to happen because of Tangle Wire. Hey, it got my +1/+1 counter. So unless my opponent has swords, they are dead. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're in pretty much never sideboard territory with this deck. If my opponent shows me a crazy anti-artifact haymaker like Seeds of Innocence in this game, I will consider playing Welding Jar, but my opponent should have like a lot of exile-based removal. I am interested in keeping this hand. I've got some wiggle room in how I play this, especially now. Just gonna start on Glimmer Post, see where this goes. I'm probably playing a turn 2 Lodestone Golem with this hand. Yeah, I think that's what I want to at least attempt to do. Oh, is this gonna get a counterspell? It seems weird to me to brainstorm in response to Grim Monolith. Like, specifically, Lodestone Golem now doesn't get Swords to Plowshared in this turn cycle. Whereas a second ago, that was possible. May not have been a mistake though. I don't know what my opponent's hand is, and I don't have any strong indicators. Okay, my opponent also has red in addition to being Bant. Okay, yeah, that's literally exactly the play that I was talking about. Tangle Wire or Karn? I think Tangle Wire. Let's slow this game down. Force of Negation. Pitching Archmage's Charm. Okay. I am fine playing a Cloud Post here. Feels like some sort of deck that my podcast co-host Brian would have gotten bribed to play. Ooh, Wasteland punishes my Cloud Post play. Uro's fine. No bonus land to put in. Oh, a Surgical Extraction. This is a small misstep. That should have been done in my draw step to give me a chance to draw Cloud Post and rip an extra card out of my hand. My opponent has 1 card left. If I am willing to risk them drawing exactly a green land, I can just play the Mycosynth Gardens this turn and then not immediately lose City of Traders, which is the play that I am going to make. This play, if it works, allows me to play City of Traders, cast Karn, get Tormod's Crypt my opponent's Uro out of their graveyard, and then I can follow up with like Tangle Wire afterwards. And this has a much better chance of setting me up for success than the Tangle Wire line does. My opponent just waits that out while I hemorrhage my own City of Traders. I am first going to look and confirm that Tormod's Crypt is in my sideboard. It is. Alright, my opponent has 2 cards. They do play every pitch counter known to mankind. So let's see if they have one. They do. That's okay. If I dodge the land drop next turn, I have City of Traders into God-Pharaoh statue, and then Uro is not realistically castable this game. However, that did not happen. This Uro hitting play is very bad for me. And my opponent gets to draw their card. I believe that I am supposed to let my opponent attack with this Uro once to greatly mess with the efficiency of their deck by playing out this God-Pharaoh statue. This is worth 1 life at the beginning of my end step and really dampens the power of the cards that my opponent can be drawing. So now I've just got to find a way to beat this Uro. God-Pharaoh statue is legendary, so I can't copy it with my gardens. Life from the Loam for Wasteland is pretty rough here. So I think my plan is get lucky with Crystalline Giant. This Tangle Wire plan is just like not going to work out versus recursive Life from the Loam. Ew, Mystic Sanctuary in there as well. That is not great for me. Leave my opponent. That's wrong. I believe my opponent is supposed to take out Mycosynth Gardens there. So that I can't, like, hit a soul land, copy Crystalline Giant. Mystic Sanctuary puts Swords to Plowshares on top. Will not be blocking. Alright. Where's my Ancient Tomb to punish? Negative. We'll still play this out. Alright, Hexproof counter, baby. Damn it. Stupid Crystalline Giant. Not getting the right counter with the perfect timing. Okay, so they also have Staff of the Storyteller. There's a Life from the Loam. They can go ahead and attack with Uro, put in a Wasteland, and continue to Wasteland me off of stuff. That's not great for me. I'll go to 8. I'm not going to be playing Tabernacle here. It's not quite good on this board. Got Flying. Got that going for me. My Crystalline Giant is just like very much outpaced by Uro here. I don't see any outs for me. I'm going to go ahead and just concede the game here and move to game 3. This is very much not a Tabernacle matchup. What will I board in? I will just board in another Crucible of Worlds so that I can just naturally have it in more of my openers. Yeah, this is fine. A little awkward against exactly turn 1 Surgical into Wasteland. Or other way around, Wasteland into Surgical. Otherwise, it attempts to, like, do some pretty disgusting Sphere of Resistance-based stuff. Backed by Wasteland. Alright. There's a non-basic land that will be Wastelandable in a little while. That was a fast shuffle. I'm interested in Loud Post here, so that this taps for 2, and I will play a Sphere. I assume that my opponent will counter this. This is all fine, though. Wasteland's okay. Like, I'm past the point where Surgical on Cloud Post is scary for me. Do I Wasteland my opponent? Do I just slam a Karn? Kind of like just slamming a Karn. So this puts me up to 3 mana. I will Grim Monolith. Whatever I'm doing resolves this turn. So let's go 3 mana. Grim Monolith. I miscounted. I thought I was getting to 6 there. I wasted a little bit of future mana. Alright. My bad there. I would like Liquid Metal Coating to start with. And it's my intention to Wasteland and Liquid Metal Coating my opponent's lands. Ugin is very reasonable as well. What if I play Glimmer Post? Then I have 3, 4, 5. Anything fun to do on 5 mana specifically? Not really. Let's do this. Wasteland my opponent's Tundra. Not even floating mana. I will Liquid Metal Coating. Going to force the fetch. Fine. We'll just plus Karn on nothing. Now every turn I can blow up one of my opponent's lands while also working towards like an Ugin here. Here's great. Liquid Metal Coating. Blow up Volcanic Island. Make a land drop. Gain some life. 2 mana Sphere. And yeah, we've locked our opponent out. GG's. I'm not sure about this opening hand on the draw. Like, I have a bunch of very reasonable spells that I can play. I really want an Ancient Tomb opener in game 1 when I don't know what I'm playing against. I think the last time I played against this opponent, they were on, like, in the Fair Maverick ballpark. I don't think I like this one. This is similar in value to the last hand. I'm going to keep it. And I'm going to keep the Tabernacle, hedging that it is going to be good against what my opponent is doing. Sure. Okay. They're certainly... Okay, hold on. Let's talk about this. It's Black Saga Storm. My hand is insane if I get a turn with these cards still in my hand. That is 5 black mana. This is going to be a turn 1 ad nauseum. Yep. My opponent has flipped down to 4 life. Oh, Tendrils is in their graveyard. So, I don't know this deck well enough to be 100% sure that there is a win on the table here. Feels like there should be. I'm gonna F6, and I'll let my opponent see what deck I'm on. But I need to confirm that they have a kill. They play out a bunch of artifacts. Float some mana, more artifacts. One more floated mana. I think this means I'm dead to Burning Wish. But my opponent isn't showing one of those. Press is fine. Infernal Tutor, not cracking LED. Oh, no, there they go. So show me a Burning Wish, and then I'm dead to that. Okay, sure. And Tendrils. That's a shame. My opponent's hand was very good there. Otherwise, I probably win this game handily as of turn 1. So the good news is all my Sphere of Resistance, Lodestone Golem, Karns are incredibly good in this matchup. I will probably board in Welding Jar in case my opponent has some sort of crazy Burning Wish target that just blows up all artifacts. A little awkward though, because I want to play Chalice on 0. This Ugin can certainly come out for 1 copy. I think I still get rid of my Tabernacle despite the fact that it can clean up Urza Saga tokens for another copy. And I think I'll move Crucible into the sideboard for a 3rd, but not play a 4th. Yeah, this has a turn 1 Sphere of Resistance. We are always just leading on the Sphere of Resistance, despite the fact that it might be slightly awkward in future turns to give up this land. The Saga is good. I think I awkwardly need to play Cloud Post here and work towards having more persistent mana. I think casting multiple of these will easily beat an Urza Saga from my opponent. I think I've got to play for the long game if I do want that to happen. And again, the turn 1 city play is slightly awkward with a lot of my things in terms of curving out properly. Alright, take your token. Now I just hope that my stream of Crystalline Giants will be able to beat the Urza Saga tokens. On average, I believe they should. But part of that depends on how many tokens my opponent plays and how quickly and what counters Crystalline Giant gets. For example, getting a Death Touch counter would be pretty huge. Tangle Wire is a little slow here. I can't play that. Alright, what are we getting with Crystalline Giant? Flying's not the best. Need to... Ooh. That extra artifact here I think pushes it over the edge. I think I'm dead. I don't have Ensnaring Bridge that I can naturally just draw to. And Tangle Wire was just a little too slow to buy me time. Yeah, I think tripping over my City of Traders, costing me playing early Crystalline Giant so it couldn't pick up more counters, was very costly. I am comfortable conceding here. GG's. I don't think this has enough business to be keepable. Like, I can turn to a Tangle Wire, but I think I fall behind too commonly with that hand, and this does not have 2 mana sources. 5 is slow. I am going to be keeping this, hoping that double Sphere of Resistance is something that beats my opponent, because if it's not, I'm dead. Okay, we are playing against Mono Red Storm. Oh, are you just going on turn 1? Wow. Deck does not typically do that. Okay. This is a Burning Wish. Only 2 mana floating. Oh, is your last card in hand empty the Warrens? That's pretty gross if that is the case. I guess it could be like Galvanic Relay. Oh, it is another Burning Wish. Exactly 4 mana for empty the Warrens. For Reforge the Soul. Sure. This is worse than my previous hand, I think. My opponent's going to keep going. Okay, sure. Nothing deterministic yet. Galvanic Relay can provide very good lines for next turn. Assuming they do go that route. Sure. Bonus round is horrifying. Because my opponent just gets to copy everything from here. Yeah, this is gross. I think at this point I am going to fast forward to a kill. Like, it seems pretty clear that my opponent is going to have this turn with 6 cards in hand now. Alright, my opponent is now casting Wish. And they have a kill with Grape Shot. I won't make them click through all of that. I will concede. That was an insane turn 1. I don't mind playing a couple copies of Welding Jar to protect the artifacts that matter. The Ugin can go. I think I board the Tabernacle out. It's very hard to draw that at an appropriate time in my deck that doesn't have any way to search for it. Probably board Crucible out here. I'm not sure that there is another card that I want to cut, so I will just play 3 Welding Jars. This has no relevant turn 1 play. Like, I can turn 1 Crystalline Giant, but I'm looking to play a turn 1 lock piece. Will I accept this? I get turn 1 some portion of the time if I keep this, but otherwise I just have a turn 2 5/3 into a turn 3 second sphere effect. I think I keep this. I'm not thrilled about this. I think I like it well enough. Turn 1s from this deck are quite rare. Like, a lot of things have to go right. Turn 1 kills, I should say. Like, a turn 1 Galvanic Blast is... Or not Galvanic Blast, Galvanic Relay is not uncommon. Sure. That's fine. Alright, great. So, gain some life. Play Grim Monolith. Playing another Grim Monolith would be +1 mana, which doesn't change anything. I will just go ahead and drop a Lodestone Golem. Have Welding Jar in play to protect that. Ancient Tomb is very good for my opponent to have here. Burning Wish is fine. Using Rite of Flame. Well, it's my plan to make that card considerably worse. Let's Sphere of Resistance. Yeah, that's about what I thought. For the game on the draw, I think I almost certainly need to have a turn 1 Sphere of Resistance or Chalice of the Void. It is a turn 1 Sphere of Resistance. I will keep this hand accordingly. I can't do anything if my opponent just turn 1s me. Like, that's an it is what it is situation. You are playing a Colorless Prison deck. Like, when you are on the draw, you don't get control over your opponent's turn 1. And you have to play some weird stuff in your sideboard like Mindbreak Trap if you want interaction on that front. Ancient Tomb into Ruby Medallion. Okay. Alright, I'll F6. Do what you're gonna do. Metamorphose is not scary. The things that start giving my opponent card advantage are... Okay, this is all fine. I have to take a minute to decide whether or not I would like to Wasteland. I think I get more out of Wasteland than I do Sphere of Resistance. If I play Sphere of Resistance, my opponent just plays Mountain into Birdie. I think I get more denial of resources by Wastelanding my opponent than playing Sphere. I'm afraid of Lotus Petal here. Lotus Petal, Ancient Tomb in particular. Reckless Impulse does not get my opponent anywhere. Ancient Tomb would be my best draw here. Negative. City into Grim Monolith is 3 mana, into Grim Monolith is 4 mana. That doesn't do anything. So accordingly, and slightly awkwardly given my mana situation, I will just be playing a Sphere of Resistance here. It's kind of my hope that my opponent just passes the turn without playing another Ruby Medallion, just because they don't have another land. Fuck. That Ruby Medallion. Ooh. Okay. Friends Resolve. I don't necessarily know that that was... Oh, this is until the end of your next turn. Okay. I see. Yeah, it's possible they could storm off through a sphere. I'd love to draw another sphere. That is a Chalice. I'm casting Chalice. I'm just thinking about 0 versus 1. There aren't that many of either in the deck. If I do 0, I can play tapped Cloud Post this turn. If I do 1, I have to play something like Gardens. Oh, I could just Gardens Sphere of Resistance. That is probably my line. Let's do that. So then I've negated the Ruby Medallions 1 for 1 and made my opponent's Jessica's Will much less scary. So Seething Song happens into Jessica's Will. My opponent will presumably use for the 3 modes multiple Lotus Petals. Those can sit in play. Okay, I guess they just get the 1 because of double Sphere of Resistance. Okay, yeah, that could have been much worse. I think I just keep pressuring resources here. I'll play stuff eventually. That is a Burning Wish or a Past in Flames. Oh, that's definitely scary. In case you're not familiar with that one. Helps against Burgy. My turn here has to just be Cloud Post and pass. Is that it for my opponent? Galvanic Relay. Okay, that's a-okay. That's not bad. Play Glimmer Post. I have 3 mana. By paying 2 mana, I can cast this on X is 0. This isn't particularly strong as my opponent has already used a couple of Lotus Petals, but I just need to do anything that I can to buy myself some time. I am not that far away from impacting the game meaningfully again. Past in Flames starts to get scary another turn or 2 down the line. Oh, Past in Flames is happening now? Oh, yes, okay. So Rite of Flame can happen. But where does that get us next? There's a mana neutral Manamorphose? Okay, I guess this could draw a land. Land could get to Seething Song. Friends Resolve. Okay. Past in Flames does have flashback, so that's a thing. Oops, all spheres? Oops, all spheres. Not doing a good job at, like, getting a threat into play, but every time I draw Disruption, I think I just have to play Disruption. I actually have a taxation effect going now. Thought I have 3 spheres. Okay, that's fine. Opponent does not have 3 mana to cast either one of those. Well, you know, when in Rome, do as the Sphere of Resistances do. Spells cost 4 more. Red spells cost 2 more. Okay, that's fine. Excellent. I have 1, 2, 3 mana. 4 after I play a land. That's not actually getting me anywhere immediately. But this starts to move in a direction. Jessica's Will costs 5 to cast. Yeah, so like my opponent can use this to make land drops. That's about it. Okay. Play Glimmer Post. 4, 8. I can go ahead and cast a Karn. I can't cast anything I get with it. So I think I just plus and get in for a little bit of damage. Maybe this is wrong, as it means that, like, one of these could kill a sphere. Yeah, I think I should have just plussed and passed the turn. There is a Burgy. So 4, 8, 9, 10. That is Mycosynth Lattice. 4, 8, 9, 10. That is Mycosynth Lattice, and I bounce Burgy. Minus Mycosynth Lattice. Bam. Caracas. Bounce Burgy. GG. Casual turn 11 Goldfish. I don't think I'm on board with this hand with triple City of Traders. Like, this hand is just going to trip all over itself. Let's try to find some stability. And this definitely qualifies. I think I'm going to throw back Tangle Wire here. And I'm going to lead on Sphere of Resistance, I think, over Chalice of the Void. This is just better versus, say, 0-drop artifacts that my opponent could play. Good old Rishadan Port. Do I just play a threat. Opponent could be goblins, it could be 60 card death and taxes, they could be lands. I can just play Ancient Tomb, play Crystalline Giant. Or I can play Mycosynth Gardens, copy Sphere. If I copy Sphere, I get ported very awkwardly here. I think I'm going to play a threat and intend on trying to lock my opponent out from their first strike counter. But I may have won or lost this game based on this interaction. This is fine. No Rashadan port. I'm always ghost quartering Urza Saga, I think. Means I don't care if I get ported mid-combat. If I give my opponent access to green mana, I probably want to Chalice on 1. That way crop rotation isn't a thing. Reach counter. Cash in for 3. Opponent goes to 17. I'll play Ghost Quarter. I'll wait until their turn to do this. Guess this is optimal in their draw step. Give them a chance to draw a basic for if they are running only 1. Black mana. Rashadan Port with Swamp is weird. Opponent didn't float mana, so they don't have edicts, at least not in hand. I still don't understand why they didn't port me. It may just have been didn't have a stop set. We had Depths deck. Life from the Loam deck. They're not porting me, which I'm very happy with because it lets me do stupid things that I shouldn't be allowed to do. Let's play Glimmer Post. Pay the blood price for Karn. Shuts off Mox Diamond. Yeah. I don't think my opponent played this game well, but I'm also not 100% sure what they're on. But it's hard for me to say that with confidence. And without knowing what they're on, my sideboarding is tough. Kind of interested in bringing in Sorceress Spyglass and Crucible of Worlds. Would like to naturally draw those. I am unsure how good Chalice of the Void is. I think when I'm unsure here, I am going to board out the Chalices. I don't know how much they did. Okay, I don't know exactly what I am playing against. I am going to keep this hand. It may or may not be fast enough. Grim Monolith. Okay. Into a key. You untap that. Turn 1 Karn is pretty good. I imagine that I just lose to Liquid Metal Coating Lock here. Alright, I'm going to cut this out. I am effectively conceding the game right here, but I'm going to see how many other cards my opponent's willing to show me. Okay, my opponent didn't show me anything other than an Urza Saga target, so I will just concede here. My Chalice of the Voids aren't particularly going to be good here. A lot of this other stuff needs to just stay in the board as Karn tutor targets. When I'm on the play, Chalice on 0 or Chalice on 1 is not crazy. I think my opponent's just on the better side of this matchup. I am looking to lock people out, and they are looking to kill people. And I want to be on the side that they are on. This is turn 2 Crystalline Giant. And to turn 3 Tangle Wire. I don't think I want that to be my keep. This hand is not dead to an Urza Saga. That's what this hand has going for it. This is not my ideal hand. I can turn 1, Chalice on 0. Turn 2, Wasteland if it's Urza Saga. And then Chalice, and I can throw back Tangle Wire. And I could keep this. Or alternatively, I throw back City of Traders. And then Tangle Wire buys me time. Okay. I am not happy about this keep. But I don't know that I want to go deeper than this. Kind of issue here is that I have 2 Chalices in the deck, and I happen to draw both of them after I've already mulliganed. The issue is my opponent can just lead on an Ancient Tomb based hand and have the potential to do very strong things. Do I Wasteland? I believe the answer is no. I believe I need to work towards this Karn. I'm just sad about it, because my opponent obviously doesn't have 1-drops right now. I think my strongest lines involve me drawing a soul land so that I can Karn next turn. And if my opponent taps out for a monolith and then passes the turn, I just play Tangle Wire and it's a blowout in my favor. But I am taking real risks here. Sure. This is fine. Okay, cool. We're back in the same spot as last turn. Urza Saga is not a problem if I can play Tangle Wire. That is an if, though. Punished for not playing out Wasteland. I don't get to deploy Tangle Wire immediately. It's going to be a slow game. Alright, my opponent's the first one to get to 3 mana. There's a monolith. They have Karn, this game falls apart because it just gets to destroy both my chalices. And Tangle Wire doesn't just take the game over anymore. They do. Alright, are we just going for the liquid metal coating? We are just going for the liquid metal coating. Okay. So, we've got a game. I think I need my lands if I'm going to win this game. I'm going to go ahead and play Karn. Can the boat hit planeswalkers? Sky Sovereign can hit planeswalkers. Play around that. I think I just plus my Karn and pass the turn. This is a little awkward. It's awkward for both of us. But my opponent could minus Karn, get Sorcerer's Spyglass, shut off both Karns. Their City of Traders will disappear if they play another land. Fuck. That's very annoying. Okay. Let's just draw any land here. Okay, sure. Any land. Then I can play my own Crucible. Negative. I can't play that sphere here. Oh man, I have boarded in my Sorceress Spyglass. It is very unfortunate. Now I can't stop Wasteland. But my opponent blew up my Chalice on 0. Which means that I can Tormod's Crypt. Fuck, no, I can't. The fucking Karns are shutting it off. Oh my god. Alright, so I should have plussed on Lotus Petal. Can't play Sphere. Alright, I should have just tutored Crucible of Worlds to hand there. Or blown up Lotus Petal. I just need to draw a soul land. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, so I misstepped. Now I don't get to tutor for Crucible. I think my misstep there cost me my outs in this game. I wouldn't have hit my land drop anyway. Alright, I will concede there. GG's, and we put up a 2-3 finish with this with this list. Alright, so that's the end of the league here. Ultimately, I don't like this strategy anymore in Legacy. I think it's very fun to play. Like, it makes you feel smart trying to find all of these ways to lock your opponents out of the game. But ultimately, you are working so hard for something that doesn't actually win the game, right? And legitimately, some of these games of Legacy were going to turn 11 and beyond before I actually had a chance to kill my opponent. I think in Legacy, for the most part, it is wise to be the one presenting the threats. And Sphere Resistance and Friends aren't threats. They are resources you are spending to stop your opponent's stuff, or really to slow it down rather than fully stop it, right? It's not like Sphere Resistance is doing a 1-for-1 trade with cards that your opponent is casting. It just slows down their ability to cast that. And a lot of times I feel like when you play these strategies, your house of cards is slowly falling apart, and you need to like spend a lot of energy maintaining the walls of that house. And I don't think that's one of the better things to be doing in Legacy. I will say I really liked Cityscape Leveler. It's like, this is super fringe as far as this playability in Legacy, but if you are in a Cloud Post shell and you are running card, like, this card is sweet. You know, it's kind of like an Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, that you can fetch out of your sideboard with Karn. Again, not the biggest fan of Karn on this channel, but if you're playing it anyway, this is reasonable. I think this deck list gets a thumbs down from me, but I think there is some cool deck building going on, and Crystalline Giant also is just a highly fun card. If you're looking to pick up copies of those, Cool Stuff Inc., promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% and support my content. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.